Join us now, Wall Street Journal chief economics commentator and deputy economics editor, Greg. Yep. Hey, so Greg, I did think of something when Rick was thinking. If you're putting in, let's say it's a $6,000 toilet, and the wrench is $1,800 to put the toilet. I mean, you're going to get up into the. It's easy to get. I mean, what's $1 billion nowadays? It's not that much, is it?
So, I mean, if the point you're making is that like even modest rates of inflation still like add to the price level, no, you're absolutely right. But this is a good number for the Fed. It's a good number for the country that inflation is still relatively moderate. The core inflation rate coming in a little bit lower than expected. I don't think it moves the Fed in the direction of cutting again, but should we get further weakness in the labor market, this certainly means that the inflation numbers are not giving them a strong reason to hold back.
Yep. Actually, I was talking about how cost overruns at the Fed building is something to be expected.
Oh, is that right?
So, yeah, when you know the way the government is able to spend money, I think, and Greg, you can weigh on this as well. Last week with Santelli, we talked about with Warsh sort of reemerging as one of the leading candidates. That wouldn't be the person necessarily that the president would pick if he just wanted a rubber stamp for lower interest rates to cut rates. So we were saying maybe the Fed independence is alive and well. And then with the developments over the weekend, we were back, with nervous Nellies again, really worried about Fed independence being the end of the world. Then the market closed up and it's up today. We need to be vigilant. That the Fed, and I think the stuff that the chairman said in that video, all that was true. Is it at risk any more than when LBJ threw that poor Fed chair up against the wall and said, you better cut rates?
Yes, it is at risk, and I think people are right to be worried. I mean, look, on the positive side, the blowback to the alleged investigation of Chair Powell has been so severe that a lot of the people responsible for it are trying to distance themselves from it. The president claims he didn't know about it. The U.S. attorney in charge of the probe claims to say, hey, we didn't even use the word indictment. So, and I think that's a reflection that there's still a strong muscle memory in the body politic and among thoughtful policy leaders that you should not go this distance. But Joe, I guess what I would fall back on is that this is not the first and it's not the last attempt by Trump to corral the independence of the Fed. We've seen him repeatedly take runs at the Fed, threatening to fire Chair Powell, trying to fire Governor Lisa Cook, putting his own White House advisor on the board of governors. And he has also, through this process of interviewing new candidates to succeed Powell, made it clear what his priority is. You must lower interest rates. And based on their public comments, both Kevin Hassett and Kevin Warsh, the leading candidates, have said that is what they will do. So I would say that at least 24 to 48 hours into this latest brouhaha, it's not perhaps the death blow that some of us worried about. But I think that this is a president who does not give up when there's something that he wants, and I would expect him to come back and try this again in some other way.
I guess the other way the half full way of looking at it is that cooler heads always seem to prevail, and you mentioned it. Yeah, the blowback, and it happens immediately, and it came from the Treasury Secretary, it came from the former Fed, individuals that were on the Fed and former Treasury Secretaries. It came from both sides of the aisle. So we have a system that, who said it? We try everything else until we do the right thing in the country. Who was that, Churchill or something? I think Churchill.
Do everything.
So if you know that, Greg, then a lot of the hand-wringing and the fear and the over-the-top angst should have been tempered by knowing that things work out in the end. Or maybe not. Maybe the actual specter of something like that happening is why people speak up. So maybe you do need those people that seem perennially pessimistic about the future.
Well, that's the optimistic take, Joe.
The future under Trump. I should say the future under the bad orange man.
Joe, that's an optimistic take. I wish I could share your optimism. We had a couple of Republican senators come out against that. But look, one of them, Tom Tillis, has already announced he's retiring because he has gone up against the president once too often, and he could see the writing on the wall. The other was Lisa Murkowski, who's obviously always had an independent streak.
Yeah,
the vast
never.
majority of Republican senators haven't really said anything.
Thune, Kennedy, I saw about almost, I didn't see a single one say, yeah, it's a great idea, let's fire Jay Powell. I didn't see a single one say, yeah, this is a great idea. They all were tempted.
No, but the only ones who said they were actually going to use their vote to block the president from appointing a new chair unless this probe was wound down.
Yeah, because he's chairman of that committee, right? Tell us.
No, I believe that's Tim Scott, who's the chairman of that committee.
Okay, well, he's in some position where he won't put a nominee up or something. All right. They tell me we got to go. I want you to, if you can call me anytime, day or night, if you're really out on a ledge in something, I will talk you down because I'm very optimistic. More new highs, good GDP, closed southern border. Just
Joe, I'm with you on all those positives. I'm not disputing any of those, and the inflation number is one more reason to be optimistic. I think 2026 is going to be a very good year for the economy and the markets.